Welcome to Fun and Games Side Quests. Every episode is a different host sharing a video game they love and why they love it.
Hello, SideQuesters. My name is Jordan, my pronouns are he, him, and I'm the voice and occasional face behind the YouTube channel Cognitive Clips. There are some long plays and top 10 lists on my channel, but I focus mostly on video essays. I love taking a deeper dive into the games I play, whether that means exploring a game's themes or even breaking down the features of my favorite genres. I've been doing that since September of 2023, and I've really enjoyed learning and growing as a creator. Some of my favorites have included an essay on how Tears of the Kingdom's story structure mirrors itself, the themes of time and failure in Citizen Sleeper 2, and a data-driven look at whether recency bias truly is a problem during gaming award season. In addition to the YouTube channel, I'm also a co-host with Drop In Dropout. We're a weekly gaming podcast, and we've just recently celebrated our 1-year anniversary by meeting in person for the first time. If you haven't seen or heard me from either of those channels, you've probably seen me taking part in a frankly concerning number of Discord groups. When Matt reached out to me and sent me the list of games that had already been talked about on SideQuest, some of my personal favorites had already been discussed. The one that was noticeably missing was the debut title from Yellow Brick Games called Eternal Strands. I enjoyed my time with it and felt like it didn't get a lot of attention on release. And when they told me the sign-off for SideQuest episodes was Happy Gaming, I knew I'd made the right choice. Because at its core, Eternal Strands is a happy game. There's danger to be found and there's tragedy in the game's events as well as the world's history. But I was immediately struck by how hopeful and kind it felt once the narrative begins. The player character of Bryn and the Weaver band she's newly joined find themselves inside the Enclave, a once thriving heart of magic and technology that has been shuttered from the rest of the world for the past 50 years following a mysterious tragedy. Weavers are able to extract magical essence, or strands, from large creatures in order to expand their own abilities. The general exploration will be familiar to anyone who's played a 3D adventure, but larger scale battles to extract strands play out more like Shadow of the Colossus. You'll have to carefully scale large automatons or even dragons, targeting protective armor while dodging their counterattacks. Admittedly, this loop doesn't always play as smoothly as you'd like, but the combat is consistently enjoyable as you combine melee attacks, ranged attacks, and your elemental magic to overcome the threats that have gone largely unchecked for decades within the Enclave's walls. And to that end, most everyone in your group has at least some sense of awe at being there, hoping to find answers behind the tragedy that struck their world all those years ago, preserve whatever knowledge they can, or even learn more about their own heritage. But there's one plot thread in particular that was so moving, it became the central topic of one of my video essays, and also the main reason I want to highlight the game for you today. The topic will be a spoiler for an optional set of side missions and also deals with mental health struggles, so bear that in mind before continuing. The series of side quests begins in Act 2 of the main story. The band's quartermaster, Casman, is concerned about supplies running low. She starts by tasking Bryn with gathering supplies from the remains of the capital city, but continues asking you to bring in random supplies from other regions in increasingly bizarre quantities. This culminates in her asking for 90 Drake scales, at which point the band's leader, Aurea, steps in. Casman admits she got carried away trying to be as prepared as possible, and assures the others she's fine, but she's clearly frazzled. By the time Act 4 rolls around, everyone's concern for Casman has only grown. Lane, the band's archivist, believes Casman may be showing signs of a poorly understood condition known only as Ira's Plague. The name comes from a polytheistic belief system common to Casman's people, whose followers believe their goddess of justice, Ira, won't allow the sufferer inner peace from awful visions of suffering until they've righted their past wrongs. To aid Lane in their research, Bryn sets off yet again to find any remaining scraps of information about this condition within the capital city. She finds a partial treatment plan, as well as a diary from someone else suffering from the condition. The information makes it clear that what's known as Ira's Plague is not exclusive to one religious group or one race, but is a disorder of the mind with multiple factors at play. At this point in the quest chain, I was already taken aback. I've been in therapy for over 10 years for depression and anxiety, so for a video game to go out of its way to talk about a fictional mental illness with this level of care was touching, to say the least. But Eternal Strands didn't stop there. With Casman's blessing, Bryn, Aurea, and Lane reach out to some newfound allies for their assistance. One of these allies is able to concoct a sleeping balm with ingredients Bryn collects, along with instructions for use. I explored dialogue options, one of which had Bryn ask this ally what else may be needed for Casman to be cured. She responded, "There is no cure, only treatment and management of the condition." When you return to camp with the sleeping balm, the whole band gathers to show their support for Casman. They give her space to talk about what she's been dealing with, they listen without judgment, and they all pitch in to take over her responsibilities while she rests. In the morning, she makes a point to say she has a long road ahead of her, but that sharing her burden with everyone and not being judged made it feel like her awful visions of disaster had lost some of their power over her. This storyline resonated with me not just as a giant nerd who happens to deal with depression and anxiety, but also because of how the developers kept it grounded in reality despite being set in a land of magic. Just like me and millions of others, there was no curing Casman's mental illness. What she needed is the same thing I've been fortunate enough to have: access to treatment and unconditional support from loved ones. But even beyond that, I realized the tasks you're given for these quests, on top of them being entirely optional, were incredibly heartwarming. As the player, you are making the conscious choice to engage with an NPC who you know is going through a difficult time. You are going into monster-filled territory, searching high and low for any shred of information on how to help this person. And at the end of it, you all gather to make sure she knows she isn't alone, no matter what her struggling mind may tell her. It's almost as if Yellow Brick Games gave an interactive seminar on the harms of stigma and how to effectively help someone in need, with the added bonus of reminding us that not everything has a cure. Eternal Strands didn't exactly move mountains upon release just over a year ago. It got average reviews from critics, and, in full transparency, I had it down at number 15 on my personal ranking for games I played in 2025. But those metrics hardly matter when a game is not only fun to play in the moment, but willing to tell real human stories that help us feel seen. I've since forgotten some of the finer details of the main story for the game, but I will never forget how touching it was to see this series of side quests through to the end. That's why I wanted to help spread the word with this recording, and I hope everyone can find a game that tells a story they resonate with on this level. Thank you once again to Matt for asking me to take part in side quests. If you're interested in my video essays or the Drop In Drop Out podcast, you can find all the relevant links at dropindropoutpod.com. Whether you're still searching for a game whose story and themes resonate with you like this, or replaying an old favorite, thanks for listening and happy gaming.
All right, Josue, let's go through our new Comic Day stack. We have a lot to review.
I know. Maybe we've gone too far.
Well, let's see. Marvel, of course. DC.
I got Image, Dark Horse,
Black Mask, Boom, IDW.
Aftershock, Vault, of course, Mad Cave,
Oni, Valiant, Scout.
Magma, Behemoth.
Wow, that's a lot. Well, all we need now is a name for our show. We need a name for a show about reviewing comic books every week. Something clever, but not too clever.
Like a pun? It's kind of cheesy.
Yeah, it's something that seems funny at first, but we might regret later on as an impulsive decision a few dozen episodes in.
Yeah, we'll think of something.
Join Keith and Josue for We Have Issues, a weekly show reviewing almost every new comic released each week, wherever you listen to your podcasts.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.